Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Rashmi.
This is going to be fun. For everyone that's here, my guest is Lisa Tatro, who is the Vice President of Global Cybersecurity Operations at Arctic Wolf. Did I get that right, Lisa?
You did.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much for being here and talking about a topic which I think is really at the heart of what we both do, looking at diversity in cyber and saying that diversity is our strength. And today we're going to go into a lot of different topics as we start to explore what does diversity really mean in cybersecurity, but from perspectives that I think haven't been really looked at before. The diversity angle when it comes to burnout, diversity when it comes to scaling an organization like you have, and what do you do when you're looking at different talent pools? So if you're ready, we'll get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So, looking at diversity as our strength, but we're going to start with the burnout question first. So, nearly 1 in 4 Canadians are feeling an increase in burnout, according to a 2022 survey from Robert Half. That's a staggering number of Canadians across all sectors hitting their breaking point. But so are cybersecurity professionals. And burnout has serious consequences for every sector, but in cyber, the stakes are really high. Cyber attacks against our hospitals, food, and energy supply have gone up, putting us all at risk and costing Canadian organizations upwards of $5 million annually to recover information and data. Fraud reports are up and costs are high, and not to mention that the rise of cyber threat activity, which has put our critical infrastructure defense on even higher alert this past year and even last week when we saw the American federal agencies under attack. This has all put an increased workload and stress on our already understaffed cyber workforce, which has expressed experts like Gartner predicting that 25% of senior cybersecurity leaders will leave the field by 2025. We're only a year and a half away from that happening. Canada can't afford to lose any more cybersecurity professionals due to burnout. We're trying to just get them going and bring more cyber professionals in. At the Catalyst, we've been doing research. And in our latest research, we surveyed 49 Canadian employers across 23 large to medium-sized businesses. Employers reported multiple challenges to hiring for cybersecurity. And how do we retain individuals in the light of this burnout culture that's happening? Among those challenges was the creation of inaccurate role descriptions and job postings. And we start to wonder, how does this lead to burnout, right? What is the correlation that's happening in those areas when we're looking at job expectations, skills mismatched, and how are we actually hiring for individuals? And are we hiring individuals who are underqualified, overqualified? And are we hiring enough? Are we hiring not enough? So I wanted to start off with you chatting about the overqualification job descriptions and the differences of hiring between Canada, the US, Europe, and Australia, because you've seen it all. And I don't think that we get to see a global perspective in Canada. We're very focused nationally, and you bring the unique global perspective. So, what are you seeing in some of those roles, and how is that impacting what you're seeing in terms of mental health as well?
Sure. It's not only overqualified, but underqualified as well. Anytime there's a stretch into a role where someone's not quite qualified, there's going to be a perception that they're always trying to work harder and harder. And that overwork ends up putting them in a spot where they're not always showing up their best, and there's that strain. If you look at it from an overqualification perspective, then again, they're in the same boat where they're not showing up their best and using their skills and talents to their fullest each and every day. You can imagine in some roles, if you need an experienced leader to come in and grow a team and then not properly fund an organization to do so, it would be an impossible task for that leader. So if you find a candidate where they have gone from scaling 10 to 100, and then you hire them to scale a team from 1 to 10, it's a vastly different skill set. And so they would likely be very underutilized, and it wouldn't necessarily be showing up their best each and every day. So hiring practices in different countries have their own unique sets of challenges. And then you have the labor laws that come into play that you have to understand, shift schedules, periods of time in which an employee can work, such as vacation allotment, bank or statutory holidays come into play, and understanding if you have a global operation, how to make all of that work. If you have a follow the sun model or a hybrid model, understanding how North America works and the jigsaw puzzle that comes into play with falling into EMEA or falling into Australia, and all of this shift schedule nuances about that and the handovers. It becomes a really complex challenge to understand and work with, right? And then you also have like the time to hire an employee. So if their notice period in a certain country is 2 weeks or 3 months, you have to understand the ramp period that somebody needs, and how to get that you know that group in the system early enough. You also might need to have additional team members on the bench, or groomed in your workplace, because if somebody departs, finding that 3-month ramp up to find somebody is going to take a lot. And so the burnout that comes in could very easily be like a void for 3 months, if somebody is gone for 3 months or takes 3 months to be onboarded into your organization. So all of this comes into play with different locations and countries and labor laws. So all of that is a really interesting puzzle that you have to kind of put all the pieces together. And then how to find the talent or attract them in different countries is also something that you have to be mindful of, because for instance, a Western culture in North America, we have vastly different advanced pipeline of talent acquisition programs, such as the internships in the pipeline talent that we have there in local colleges and university. We have like a skills bridge program in U.S. military veterans transitioning from public to private sectors. And we could probably talk about that a little bit later in our conversation. There may not be sophisticated programs like that, but there might be different programs like that in Australia or in Europe. And you have to really figure out what works in different countries to give you that pipeline that will help you groom new talent into the industry, and be mindful of the burnout that maybe some longer tenured veterans might be facing. So.
Oh, thank you. Because it is really distinct, right? Like it is a unique role now that we're bringing individuals into in cyber, and you're constantly in planning, it sounds like, on talent in all of these countries, and appreciating the different rules and regulations as well. As we're seeing, the cybersecurity roles are distinct. And that's why helping our talent acquisition professionals, who are your talent partners in the organization, try to help them to understand those requirements for each role is probably a step to improve how you attract and retain individuals. But Lisa, just wanted to get more into what is some of those impact of distinctions between cybersecurity and IT roles, and discussing why hiring for skills and for previous career experiences really matters in cyber, and such as stress management, communication, identification of what kind of risks exist in an organization, what is business acumen. How are you looking at those skills, and how do they also help in the idea of looking at burnout, and how does that help mitigate burnout?
Right. So when we're looking for talent team members in this space, I look for a few characteristics. Adaptability. I find these trends that we see in the cyberspace, because they're constantly evolving, we're always working with the unknown. And how that kind of maps back to burnout is, if you're able to adapt, then you have this skill in this muscle that you're willing and you're able to flex, and you're able to show up and see that. Communication skills and the ability to effectively get your point across to a peer, a leader, a customer in a kind, concise, diplomatic manner goes a really long way. And de-escalating situations is also a very key skill that we look for. It also helps you be able to articulate how you're feeling. And if you see and understand, like maybe you have signs of burnout, you're able to articulate that, right?
Yeah.
Creativity is something we look for. We often work on challenging problems and we get stuck. And how can you add to our team in a diverse lens that will expand our problem solving capabilities? And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Can you find a way to approach a challenge completely different that provides a new lens that we didn't think about previously? And so we've found in a burnout situation, sometimes we have to approach problems creatively. Perhaps, somebody has to work half of a shift, and you need a break on something else. So maybe we split a shift. That would be a creative way to solve a problem, or, approach things differently. We look for team players as well, because you're never working on your own really in this space. I've always said it's kind of a team sport and we're better as a team. And when I look at it that way, you always are kind of looking out for your team members as well. And so I've had team members look out for each other. Our management team is looking out for each other and their team members, and you see signs of burnout as well. And you start to see symptoms of it, and you get ahead of it before it becomes and festers and becomes a bigger problem. And then we're always looking for those life skills like self-awareness, really knowing about yourself, your limitations, understanding, those times that you've made a mistake and learned from it, maybe would have approached a problem or a situation differently. Like, we're looking for those types of characteristics, because that self-awareness really comes to play when being in this type of environment. And it goes back to all of those things that I kind of talked about, the communication, the team sport, the team player, all of those things really kind of help us in this environment. And it makes the team that much, more well-rounded. And they're transferable, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was just going to comment that I really like your approach to that this industry is a team. And I think a lot of individuals think that cybersecurity is an individual contributor, but when you approach it as a team, it doesn't feel so lonely. It's a community.
Absolutely.
And I think those are really important. What you just highlighted are skills that not a lot of people think about when they're considering a career in cyber or expressing that you need a community to mitigate some of that burnout feeling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Another challenge that's in front of our talent acquisition managers is that how to utilize an understanding of cyber to help organizations talent map from within. And through our research, the Catalyst found that most employers, 72% of them, reported that protect and defend roles like cybersecurity analysts, penetration testers, cybersecurity incident responders, and digital forensics analysts are currently the most in demand roles. Talent acquisition teams who are fluent in cyber can help organizations probably better predict these growth trends and strategically promote and upscale from within. How do you grow? Because I know you've spoke about this before. You had a small team, a handful, literally 5, and you've grown it now to over 200 globally as well. And so how did you find that talent mapping for this exponential growth that happened in I guess in cyber time, it's a really short time. Actually, in most organizations, it's called warp speed, but in cyber time, you were ahead of the trend. So what were some of the things that you had to do?
Absolutely. Yes. So over the last 5 years, the SOC has grown from a small dedicated plus a hybrid team of 5 people to fully dedicated 200 plus person team. And growing it was not easy. It was like we're on a rocket ship, and it was just explosive growth. So we did this in a couple of ways. We obviously grew our talent from within, but we partnered with different organizations and schools, and that was really key. So every SOC location that we were at, we partnered with local schools and ensured that we had a cyber program and had a pipeline of talent locally. One of our partnerships was with Toronto Metropolitan, which had the underrepresented community team members and graduates from all walks of life. So Rashmi, that's where you and I actually met, I think. Yes. We also had other different organizations as well. So we had invested a partnership with SkillsBridge, which is transitioning military veterans into cybersecurity in the US. We also had a partnership with WESIS, which is Women in Cybersecurity, and they provided a lot of women going into the space. And there's a lot of international partnerships with local schools as well. So in Germany and all different locations. I think I said like Minnesota. We have a location in Utah, San Antonio. We had UTSA. We also did something different, which was hiring in cohorts. So one thing you find when you're hiring more than one of the same type of role is that you don't have to look for a perfect candidate. When you hire 3 or 4 team members in a cohort, you're able to find various skills and backgrounds and make well-rounded teams with diverse thought. And that actually made the team really, really strong because you didn't have to find perfect skills across the group. And that really made an interesting SOC teams because they came from all walks of life, right? We had people that were baristas and legal and electricians and you name it, that were transitioning into this space that were trained. We also developed our own certification program, which allowed us to grow the talent pipeline internally. And it provided employees the ability to have an in-house role progression. And it really set the team up to be eligible candidates should an opening become available in the new role. So not only did we get them in the door, we also gave them a career path, progressing across the organization into branching into other parts of our security services organization. And then the other thing that was really important to us was really setting a firm culture of celebrating wins. And when you're building out a culture, when you're growing so quickly, it's really, really important because it was defining us as a team of who we wanted to be and what we really found valuable and important to us. And that, I think, the most important was adhering to what it was and what we were doing. So I think, if anything, ensuring that you were following through and executing on each component was really, really important to us. So we had quarterly award winners and annual award winners, and we had certification awards where people got these pretty cool jackets after a year of being recertified in their certification. And we have little Lego statues celebrating wins on the team, and like a little spot bonus award things for jobs well done, and really a lot of shout outs for celebrating protecting and delighting our customers when people were taking care of their customers, and really sharing the successes across the organization and the company as a whole, in doing peer-to-peer celebrations. And that really celebrating all of that really was so important to us, and it's instilled to this day. And I think that in itself really helped us build that culture and the growth across the organization.
Oh, I love the Lego people. We spoke about that once before, and I think it's so neat. I picture everybody like building their Lego individuals on their.
I've got mine here. Do you want to see it?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I got my little guy here. Hold on.
So you got to tell us a little bit of a descriptor of what's going on over there.
Yeah, here's our little Lego people with all of our little years of service and when we had some mega threats and grand openings and roles that we had. It's all a lot of really fun things that we do that are important in the organization. So
Living
yeah,
out the values
that's right.
and
That's
never
right.
stop playing.
That's right. Work hard, play hard.
Exactly. That's a great culture to be building. And I really like the diversity of thought that you spoke about, because
Absolutely.
that allows for people from other, backgrounds, professional backgrounds, to lean in fully and not feel like they have to discount that background of theirs. They can actually pull in and be respected for what they bring. And that's a great culture. And one of the things that we're looking at is, how do we HR professionals, that we want them to, like I keep talking about our HR professionals, talent acquisition partners, because they're a big part of what we need to achieve, and to help them to be able to look at some of ways that they can be part of the solution as well. So, one of the things is that we want to make sure that cybersecurity can inject new talent, and it truly needs. And we need to have our talent acquisition teams being able to look at what that means and what are those challenges that are out there. Because we're seeing numbers increasing for the demand in cybersecurity, growing 350% from 2013 to 2021. And then the forecast in the next 5 years, I don't even have those numbers yet, because I don't know if anybody's quantified it. Do you know any, have you heard any projections globally? Because I haven't heard any.
I have not, but at the trajectory that we're going, we're not getting ahead.
And so your clients' demands are higher, the
That's
industry
correct.
demands more, and we can't fill the funnel fast enough.
Correct.
So whatever that increase is, it's definitely more than 350% growth that we're going to see in the next 5 years. And even if a little departure from our conversation for a minute, even though that there's this prediction of a softening economy coming at the end of this fiscal year, I wonder what that is for cyber when it comes to hiring, because I don't see that slowing down. I think as an industry, it's still in growth mode and very healthy from some of the analyst reports I'm seeing. So I don't know, right? It's going to be an interesting year ahead for all of us, especially in cyber. I think the growth is going to remain. Just wanted to take a look at, you touched upon some of your training from and hiring from non-traditional talent pools. I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that, because we don't hear a lot about where else organizations go to identify talent. Many organizations rely heavily on posting of this is my job requirement, please apply, and not proactively leaning into groups and demographics and finding where that talent could come from. You spoke about veterans, you talked about women, potentially youth programs. Just wanted to learn from you, where are some of the places that you've been looking at when it comes to identifying talent, and what else have you been doing in those areas?
Sure. So we found great success with team members that were former military. We found legal, marketing professionals, all the way across the spectrum to baristas, as I had mentioned, mechanics, accountants. Cybersecurity really thrives in an environment where diversity of thought and experiences can partner with proper cyber training to solve tough problems and challenges. And then the thinking from non-traditional paths and pivoting into the space has been very rewarding, that we found, especially on like some of the tough cyber problems. And then when the teams we're partnered together, we've had really great success solving those problems, and even looking at like the indicators of compromise and working with customers, or looking to minimize the risk across the environment. We found that those types of teams comprised from the two different backgrounds was really a great team grouping. So when companies are looking internally from other departments, and I would really encourage them to look to their whole team to see how other team members can pivot into this space, because I think they'd be surprised the significant value that can be brought into the table. I don't know of a department out there that anyone couldn't be trained to be in this space. If you look at the NICE framework, which is the cybersecurity framework, there is so many roles within cyber that anyone could be trained to do if you wanted to. I don't think that there's any function in an organization that couldn't have a role within cyber.
It's a really great viewpoint, because then that goes into the next part of, we're training individuals into roles, and we're building up capacity through training and making sure that people find the industry to be attractive and welcoming, and the ways that you've identified the groups that you want to be in. Then it comes down to those transferable skills that you're seeking, and that the non-technical is where we need to lean in to identify these individuals. So what do you value in your team? You spoke about, the team building side, individuals who can communicate, self-advocate, but what are some of the other skills that you, leading this global organization, value? And then your team is going to reflect that.
Mm-hmm. So, we have our own company values, which are very important to us. But if I look at some of those skills that I look at, I think the ability to collaborate, listen, learn, teach, and communicate really is what are valuable to us. Collaboration together, working through an issue collaboratively is really what we see in the SOC. If someone's stuck solving a problem, you can see 3 or 4 people around helping bounce ideas off of each other. Like listening is valuable to us. The ability to teach is valuable, I think, because if you can communicate your thoughts and you have an idea to share, that's valuable. And then communication all goes back to the communication piece. On the whole, like honesty and integrity is extremely valuable in this space. Having a great work ethic is and organizational skills is also great in this space. But like just that kindness wrapped around, and the ability to look at a problem, work with others, and put in effort and do your best each and every day with honesty and integrity, I think is really what's going to be needed in this space. And teach others, communicate with others, listen to each other, teach each other. Those things really go a long way where we're at.
Your perspective is so refreshing, and I don't think I hear it enough from cyber leaders. The leaning in, especially of kindness, of teaching others, building up one another. And those are skills that I think many of us learn from our mid-career skills, because it takes time to build it up. And if you're learning from someone else and you're new to the industry and you're a junior in the industry, that's rapid growth that you've created, I think, to be able to create those pathways. And
yes.
Do you have a mentoring program, or is it done through this framework that you've described?
So there's informal and formal type mentoring programs. There's some that are as part of, we have PAC Unity programs at our organization. There's some in, I know WESIS has one, a formal one. There's some informal mentoring programs, and we have a DEIB, that's our PAC Unity. They had some mentoring programs there as well. And we have a lot of informal programs as well. So there's tons of mentoring going on
Mentoring
within our organization.
It's so important. Many of our graduates, who as Arctic Wolf has a number, where they do speak highly of the mentoring and the impact that it has on their career, whether it's technical mentoring, professional development mentoring, problem solving, and it just feeds into continuous growth and development. Returning back to where we started on burnout, just wanted to come back on that piece as we're wrapping up. What are some of the things, like services or that can be provided or Arctic Wolf may provide to support professionals experiencing burnout? Or even anecdotally, what would you like to see other organizations bringing in for their professionals? Like, how do we help? What can we do?
I know at Arctic Wolf we have a Pack Unity pillar, which is all about mental health, and that's very prevalent in our organization. We really embrace that. It's got some great leaders, individual contributors, and leaders within within the organization, and it's funded. It's really prevalent within Arctic Wolf. So a big shout out to the Pack Unity leaders there within Arctic Wolf. I think equipping everyone in an organization to be more mindful of the signs and the symptoms of burnout is not just a leadership job or an HR job. I think it's an everybody job, because if everyone is able to notice the signs, then you can do something, you can have the conversation. I think more mental health resources, support, and practice internally about the best practices and steps to take for curbing burnout is always a good thing. I see that across different companies, and I think that's really good. I think companies should really consider right sizing staff, looking at trends in a department where maybe team members are leaving or on a leave of absence, looking for the reasons with curiosity. Generally, if it's workload related or stress leave, then perhaps looking into seeing if there's any staffing considerations to be had there. Um, supportive benefits, such as I know some companies have mental health days, maybe an investment in therapy. Mindfulness apps is a new one that I've seen recently on some benefits packages.
Oh, I haven't seen that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. There was one package that had the Calm app for a year, which is an interesting one, which was a good benefit that I thought was pretty neat. Yoga or meditation, which was a good one. You could have a stipend for a certain amount, like a house spending account that could go towards yoga or something that can help your mental health. Training for managers and employees, I think, is really good, and strategies from maybe an outside party if there's no experts within your organization. I really think bringing experts in to help train employee base, maybe once a month, once a quarter, or whatever is applicable, from an outside party that knows a lot about it. If there's no experts in house, would be a good idea. Some companies have had strategies, or departments even have strategies of no meetings after a certain time of day on a certain day of the week. That is sometimes good to kind of allow team members to kind of debrief or decompress, rather. Mm-hmm. You could have a mandatory blackout time for your cyber team or any team, really. Consideration of walking meetings. So if there's a one-on-one, you could go for a walk. Not obviously if you in the middle of a snowstorm in December in Canada, maybe you want to walk around the building. But those are always good. I think setting boundaries and adhering to them is a very important one. I think as leaders and cyber professionals, sometimes we allow our boundaries to slip over time, and one day slips and then another boundary slips, it sometimes gets us into a predicament where we end up in a situation where our calendar is a little bit of a mess. So setting those boundaries and really adhering to them so that you can have that decompression time is really important. Making time for training. is important to you, because I think if you're not trained up and then you get behind the 8 ball, then you may be fighting to be up to speed and skilled effectively, which is potentially an issue, um, to not being effectively skilled for the role that you're in, and then you're not in the best position. And then maybe being adaptable as leaders, trying something different for the team. If something isn't working, like, a process or some approach or a structure, think about how we can do something different to move forward. So just because something works, and I learned this when we were scaling the organization, something doesn't work, try something different. A process, a procedure, a structure, something. Be open to changing it, because if it's better for the work-life balance and it's better for the team, it's going to help without context switching a lot, then it actually may really help with burnout, and curbing that. So that's some of the ideas I had.
Amazing ideas. I'm sure anybody listening is taking a lot of notes and trying to figure out what and how many of these fantastic ideas they can incorporate into their
There you go.
organization. One of the things that we did with our students, we actually do mindfulness training time on Fridays, and it's led by RBC, who also identified, similar to you, that the burnout, the stress level on the job has a toll, because prone to error, prone to missing, but also creating balance. And we wanted to bring that corporate perspective into for our students to see as they went into the profession, and have those tools and coping mechanisms early. So we're really excited to be able to bring that into our programming as well. Last question. Do you think Canada has what we need to alleviate some of our cybersecurity talent pressures? Or are we going to continue to be in this inflection point all the time and saying we need more, we need change, we need different skills? Do you think we're equipped to be able to handle what's coming next in the next 12 months, 24 months?
I know we have it. I think we have to be open-minded about how we approach it. For sure.
Yeah, open-minded.
Let's do
I
it.
like that.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's a whole different conversation on what does it mean to be open-minded.
For sure.
Lisa, I want to thank you for your time today. A great conversation. Really, I can see your passion come through. I can see your expertise, and I'm hoping that others are going to lean in and really take a look at all aspects of talent, and especially burnout, and how do we identify and retain and give tools to our cyber teams as they're working really challenging jobs on the front line.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me, Rashmi. Thank you.